Hey, everybody, welcome back to Home Economics. I'm your instructor, Erica. And today is going to be a special episode because we're going on a field trip today. So, we're not going to be cooking in the kitchen, but instead, we're going to hop a plane and we're going to Cancun, Mexico. So, my husband and I recently visited Secrets Mirabel, which is this newer property in Cancun. We love visiting Mexico every year, from trying new foods on the resort, trying different restaurants off the resort, taking cooking classes. I love all things food. So this time we didn't go off property, but instead we decided just to relax and try the different restaurants that were available to us. So instead of putting your aprons on, go ahead and fasten those seatbelts and let's take a flight to Cancun. So to kick things off, we started at the French restaurant, and that was the first restaurant of the trip. And so this resort in particular, I think, has 5 to 7 different restaurants. And so we fortunately did make it around to all of them, except there was one we didn't get a chance to do for dinner, but we did do it for breakfast, and you'll see that a little later in the video. But the French restaurant is probably one of the more elevated restaurants on the resort. And so they had a lot of great options. I would say this was probably one of my Actually, I think it was my favorite of the entire trip. So to kick things off, I got a mocktail and it's called the Cocoa Bomb. And for this one, it has banana puree, orange, pineapple mix, coconut cream, and grenadine. So it was okay. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really like it. So we ended up getting a bottle of wine instead. It was my husband's favorite German wine, and that got the job done. Now, for our appetizers, we got two separate ones. And so the first was called the Chef's Gargouille. I think that's how you say it. And it was essentially 30 seasonal vegetables. And I'm reading the description 30 seasonal vegetables, herbs, edible flowers, each cooked separately to preserve their texture and essence, finished with an old style mustard champagne vinaigrette. Now, as you gotta see, it was just a bunch of different vegetables that were lightly steamed over some vinaigrette. Was it good? Sure, it was fine, but it didn't have anything on them. It was just steamed vegetables. And when I say steamed, I mean like lightly steamed. But I mean, pretty decent appetizer. I can't necessarily complain about it, but I think I was expecting something extravagant and it was steamed vegetables. And then the other thing that we got was the onion quiche, which we really liked this one. And it had Gruyere cheese in it, and that's a cheese that I really do enjoy. And so definitely recommend the onion quiche because that was good. So for our entrees, we actually got two separate ones again. And the first was called the Duck Margaret, which this was a seared duck breast that was in garlic butter and it had a sweet potato puree with asparagus and a port wine demi-glace. This was so good. I would say the only thing that I would do differently is that I would order it medium rare because that's typically how duck is prepared. And I got it medium, so it was just a teensy bit tough, but they did ask me how I wanted it prepared, and I did say medium, so that's on me. But definitely love the duck. I think this was Josh's favorite. And then after that, we got the sea bass, which this was so good. It was like baked, it was cooked over like fennel and onion, and it had this really nice sauce to go with it, but the skin was like perfectly crisp. Fish was tender. Definitely love the sea bass. And then lastly was the creme brulee, and this is a dessert that's kind of hard to mess up. So it was good. It was what a creme brulee should be, nice, crisp sugar crust on top, creamy underneath, few pieces of fruit, little mint sprig, chef's kiss. So the next day, we started our day at breakfast at the restaurant called Olio, which this one is only available for breakfast for those who booked in Preferred Club. And so that was this room status that we booked. So we kicked things off with a wellness shot. And so the shot had pineapple juice, agave, lime juice, ground ginger, and and cinnamon. And so then for our entrees, I started off with a Parisian croissant, which is basically just like ham and mozzarella on a croissant. It looks a lot bigger in the video than it actually was in person. It was pretty small. And then Josh got waffles, and then he ended up getting an omelet that came a little bit later. And then I finished things off with chilaquiles, which I love chilaquiles, and I ordered mine with chicken breast. So it was so, so good. It was so flavorful, I actually probably need to make a video making chilaquiles one day because it's one of my favorites. So moving on to dinner, we had dinner at the Blue Water Grill, which was their steakhouse on the property. And this was probably my second favorite. So we kind of kicked things off with a beef empanada, which had a really good chimichurri. We definitely love the empanada. I don't think I've ever had an empanada I didn't like, so I knew that was probably going to be a win. And then for our entrees, this is where things got just a little bit interesting because see, Josh, my husband, he got his cuts of beef mixed up. And so he thought he was ordering a small filet and he ordered a ribeye instead. And so he also got a burger because he wanted to try that because they have a picana burger, which I've never had a burger made with that cut of beef before. And so he ended up ordering like this big ribeye as well as an entire thick, heavy burger, as you could see in the video. And so we kind of had to figure out what we're going to do about that. So I took like a few bites of it. The burger was so tender and good. Like, oh my God, I don't know if I've ever had a burger like that, just tender and flavorful before. And then also as you could see in my steak, I got the filet, mashed potatoes, and then I got the arugula salad, which it didn't really have a lot of dressing on it, but we made it work. But my filet it looked a little charred on the outside, but it was good. It was tender on the inside. I ordered it medium rare, which is also how he ordered his steak. So needless to say, we rolled out of that restaurant good and full. Like I said, everything was pretty good. And then for dessert, we ordered this like it was like a deconstructed s'mores. You'll probably see it in just a second, but like it's like this chocolate fudge, and then you got your marshmallows, and it's drizzled with I don't know. It's like deconstructed s'mores. It was cool. I'm not really big on like chocolate desserts, but it was fine. But overall, this was a really good meal. I would have to give this restaurant probably, like 8.5, 9 out of 10. Would recommend. So it's now day three, and for dinner we decided to go to Himitsu, which is the Asian restaurant that's on property. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love this one, and I was really hoping that I was going to. So to start things off, we had the miso soup, which had tofu and mushrooms and scallions. Pretty standard miso soup. Although the broth was a little murkier than I was used to, but hey, whatever. And then we also got the gyoza, which had short rib but it was cold, and I was like, aren't these supposed to be warm? So they were tasty. I just wish that they were warmer. So when it came to our entrees, Josh got the tonkatsu ramen, and then I got the shaki miso yaki, which is basically a miso marinated salmon, which it was pretty good. It was it was pan fried salmon, nice crispy skin, tender on the inside. I don't know, that's about all I got. And then for dessert, we got the creamy na gohan, which was basically like a coconut rice pudding. Now, I love like mango sticky rice. I love rice pudding. This one, I think I hate it. Like, I love coconut flavored things, all right? Love anything flavored coconut, but I can't stand coconut flakes, shavings, coconut in its natural form. I don't like it. Can't stand it. So it's now the next day, and we are back at the Blue Water Grill because we are bringing in Josh's birthday, and so he wanted to go get steak again for his birthday dinner, so that's where we went. So we kicked things off with a chocolate martini, which this was so good. It was so creamy, just how I like them. And so this night in particular, we have to hit two restaurants in one night because we are leaving the next day. So I went pretty light here since we had already eaten here before. And so I started things off with just some grilled shrimp and some mashed potatoes and just kept it very simple. Josh got his empanada, and then I think he got a steak again. Pretty straightforward. Now, in our efforts to eat kind of light at the steakhouse, we pretty much failed at that because now we're at El Patio, which is the property's Mexican restaurant. And so we're like, okay, we're just gonna try some tacos and we're gonna call it a night because we got to make sure that we get ourselves ready for our flight in the morning. So this restaurant in particular was kind of interesting. So once you sit down, they bring out what they call the chef's bites. And so And then you have three different dips, and then you also have like chicharron, these like rolled kind of like taquitos, which are called cositos. And then there was also like just your regular like standard tortilla chips. So then you have like a pumpkin seed dip salsa, which that is called tequila pop. I think that's how you say that. And then, of course, we have guacamole and then your standard salsa. Nothing was spicy. These are pretty cool though. I've never tried some of these before, so I was pretty excited to try that. So after we had our appetizer, we then began to order our tacos. So we kind of underestimated the size of the tacos because they were pretty decent size. I thought they were going to be smaller, so we ordered way too many. So I decided I was going to get all four because I'm like, hey, we got to go hard. It's the last night. So the first one was the Costican, which is a pork belly cooked in a copper pot with blue corn, guacamole, and tomatillo salsa. And then they have the Costra, which this one is like a grilled cheese filled with picanha and caramelized spring onions. And then they had the mole. Now I had some delicious mole one time when we were in Cabo San Lucas. And I had been chasing that high ever since because I'm like, I have to have mole like that. It was from a restaurant called Los Tres Gallos. It was off the resort. Oh my God, I still think about it to this day. And then lastly, we had a taco called the Azul. And so this one was really exciting to try because it has what you call la coche, which is called corn smut. And so essentially, corn smut is a fungus that grows on corn sometimes. Now, we don't really see that in the US because if something does have corn smut, they're not going to sell it. However, in Mexico, it is considered a delicacy. And so I knew that going in. So when I saw on the menu, I said, oh, I got to try that taco because I need to try this delicacy that is corn smut. So I kicked things off with the Costacan taco. It's pretty decent. Like no real complaints. It wasn't bad. Next up was the Azul, and this is the one that had the corn smut, and this was actually pretty good. So corn smut basically tastes like mushrooms essentially. So like these mushrooms are just like sauteed and seasoned. So there was no complaints about this one. So glad I got an opportunity to try it because yeah, that was pretty good. And I could see why it's considered a delicacy. The next was a mole taco, and unfortunately, I didn't care for this one as much. I've had mole in from different places, from like I said, Cabo to Arizona, and so to now at this particular resort in Cancun. And it to me, it has tasted very, very differently from each region. So I think this is just one of those that I think is, and I have to do a little bit more research on it because food is culture. So I'm very careful here to say like I think maybe I gotta try it some more places, or maybe it's regional. But either way, I didn't love this one, but I'm gonna keep trying and chasing that high that I had before. So the last taco was a Costra, and this one was my favorite. It was so good. Like it had just like this thick layer of like grilled cheese in it and the picanha, and it was just oh. I was pushing past my hunger cues at that point because I'm like, okay, this is really good, and this is our last night, so I was like, let me take a few more bites, but other than that, I am glad that we got an opportunity to at least get the restaurant a try. Like I said, that kosher taco was really good, and the chef's bites at the beginning, that was cool. And then, like I said, getting to try corn smut. So, all in all, would I recommend this resort? I think if you got it at the right price, I think, you know, give it a try. This is not like a full-on resort review because I have a whole lot of other thoughts about that, which could be for another video. But just to keep it food centered, I think you could have some pretty good meals here. I think, the great meals that we had kind of outweighed some of the things that we didn't care for as much. But overall, like I said, I love trying new foods in different places. And I think honestly, all-inclusive resorts, if you go to the good ones, is a good place to really kind of expand your palate and try things that you normally wouldn't because it's available to you. So yeah, I think I would give the food probably a 7 out of 10 overall. Like I said, there were some wins and there were some not so great items, but you know, try it for yourself. Or if you have tried it, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, so thanks for joining us on this field trip, and I hope to see you in the next video.